News and information 570 AM.
96.3 FM HD2. KLIF Dallas. KSCS FM HD2 Fort Worth. KLIF.com.
A Cumulus station.
Now, from the 5th floor Cumulus Studios in downtown Dallas, it's time for Inside Real Estate. Here's your host, Michael Kruizinga.
Good morning, Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Welcome to Inside Real Estate. Mike Kruizinga here, your host and local Dallas-Fort Worth area realtor. Welcome. Happy Sunday. Come on in. By the way, we are here every Sunday, 8 a.m. for your listening pleasure. We hope you make it part of your regular Sunday morning if you're just out there driving about to work, heading to church, getting ready for church, just lounging around. We hope you make it part of your every Sunday, 8 to 9 a.m. And by the way, we talk about all kinds of things, not just real estate. We talk about a little sports, entertainment, and politics, and, just a regular old school variety show, if you will. But we do talk a lot about real estate, of course, too. But, hey, 888-787-KLIF, 888-787-KLIF if you want to call in. Website, InsideRealEstateRadio.com. You can always connect with us and all of our partners right there. Social media. Sam has got us all over social media. Every story that we talk about on the show is on our Pinterest page, also Twitter, and, of course, Facebook. But you can connect to all of those things through InsideRealEstateRadio.com and always hit our archive page for any past shows or past segments that you might have missed. We got a wild and crazy show today. We did have several segments planned with, of course, JC for insurance, with Kevin Hamus, Ideal Floors, Terry Wagner for mortgage talk, but we've decided to just turn the format on its head, and we're just going to talk Super Bowl Sunday. Because we all enjoy football and we all want to talk football. So we're going to do that for about 30 or 40 minutes. And then at the end of the show, we've got we've got our political segment coming in because it is an election year. So we're going to talk a little bit of politics. So we're going to do that at the end of the show. But without further ado, let's get into some sports talk. J.C. Harder, by the way, jcharderagency.com. Phone number where they are always standing by for all your insurance needs, 214-643-6108, is here live in studio. How we doing, JC?
Good morning, Mike. How you doing?
Excellent. Kevin Hamus, owner of Ideal Floors, is here live in studio. Website, idealfloors.com for all of your flooring needs. 214-789-0422. That is his cell phone number, by the way. The number I put out for JC is not his. That is his office number. We're gonna
forward it to myself.
Okay, all right, dirty trick. And then Kevin, how we doing?
Doing great.
Good to see you.
Super Sunday.
That's right, Super Bowl Sunday. And Terry Wagner, our resident mortgage expert of all things mortgage from Supreme Lending Rockwall. Website, RockyMartin.com, Rocky with an I-E, and phone number where they're always standing by for your refinance, cash out, and mortgage needs, 866-607-5667. Terry, how you doing?
I'm good. And by the way, that phone number is also forwarded to my cell.
Wow. You guys are always fooling me.
That's right.
Fooling me. Where do we want to start with all this? Do we want to start with the fact that we're a bunch of sad sacks because the Cowboys are not in the Super Bowl?
That is pretty sad.
It is. And it's funny because JC noticed that we're all wearing our Cowboys gear. I'm wearing an old Cowboys stadium, beanie over here that I've got, and everybody's got their Cowboys junk on. And but last year was maybe kind of a fluke. 3 years of 8-8. Last year the great season, and then this year back to nonsense.
Yes.
yes, just back to nonsense.
Yes, back to nonsense.
The one thing that's not good is when you have. I mean, they probably are the only team that I know of that does that bad just having their quarterback go down.
Right.
I mean, how crucial a quarterback is. I mean, you have other teams, their quarterback goes down and, they don't fall apart.
The Broncos, for instance.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Well, and it's like mentally the whole team just does shut down. The offensive line just gives up, and Des Bryant doesn't run his routes anymore. I guess he thinks the ball's not coming to him, or what the deal is. The only one that seems to work hard every single play, inside, outside, everywhere you can possibly be, is Jason Witten.
He always does.
Right?
Yes.
Well, and the defense.
Yeah, and the defense does their job, because they're on the field nonstop.
Much more.
They don't. Yeah, they don't have an option.
Yeah, they don't have an option. They try to take a breather when they can.
Yeah, they earned their money this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we all know Dez caught it still from last year.
I agree.
Amen.
Yeah,
Amen, JC.
I agree, and it was a touchdown.
Yes.
As far as I'm concerned.
Yes. Last year we should have gone to the Super Bowl.
That was our chance.
Yes.
That's right. We've always, as Cowboys fans, we always have our coulda, shoulda, wouldas, don't we?
I think we should have all had a shirt that said Dez caught it.
Well,
Hashtag Dez caught it.
That's right.
Trending.
That's right.
That's right.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens next year.
Yeah.
And
Well,
is DeMarcos coming back?
that'd be interesting to see. I'd be happy to have him back. If our offensive line can stay healthy, do their thing, and protect Romo. Romo needs to seriously do some real work in the offseason this year. He needs to get bigger and stronger. He can't take a hit right now. He can't take a hit at all.
That's true.
Well, we got an old man in the Super Bowl. Peyton Manning's 39 years old. And by the way, John Elway won when he was 38, and he was the oldest quarterback, right, Sam? He was the oldest quarterback that won, and he won for the Broncos, and then he retired right after that. He was in a heck of a lot of Super Bowls, had the back-to-back championships at the end of his career, but he had some great ones early on. Do we think maybe it's certainly a pretty setup to maybe Peyton pulling it off? It's going to be a tough go. What do we think?
I think the media is in love with the old man,
The idea.
possibly winning and retiring, going out on the white horse like Elway did as well.
Riding into the
have
sunset.
The other end of the spectrum with Cam Newton, a couple years into the league, national championship winner. He just won MVP yesterday. Carolina's been great all year. So I think it's, it couldn't be a better setup.
Yeah, I agree. I wish it had been a better season for Peyton. Between him and Brock, they together combined, they had more pass yardage than Cam, but Cam had almost as much as the two of them combined. But you're right. Cam really put together his game this year, and he's trying to be. Marcus Allen. In the span of 7 years, was league MVP. He was a Heisman winner, collegiate champion, and a Super Bowl winner. Only one to do that, I do believe. And Cam's trying to do that. He's got 3 of those. If he picks up the Super Bowl win, he's got the quad. So
impressive.
Yeah, super impressive. This year, I think Cam just totally changed his game this year as far as being able to manage the pocket presence. He's more focused. He put in the mental work this year. We all knew he had the physical work, great athleticism, but to me, he put this year in the same kind of Peyton Manning-esque mental work and homework in to every game, studying, the defenses every single week so that he could come out, and he was just on fire. I think he put it all together this season.
He definitely turned into a leader, and my favorite thing about him is if you watch when they're on defense, he's not on the bench, with his guys or anything. He's up there on the sideline rooting for his guys, and just kind of reminds me like a Brett Favre, just like a, love of the game, and just, really people rally around that.
Yeah, exactly.
As much fun as he has out there, it's hard to believe he's as prepared as he is. Because, he's just having fun.
Right.
And that's one thing that's really kind of unique about him is just how much fun he has on the field.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. And, the way he can fling the ball, it's just like with such ease. He's just whipping that thing down the field. And that was kind of what disappointed me, I think, earlier in his career is that, yeah, he was a great runner, but it's almost easier to run. As the quarterback, you throw the ball, run the offense, and I knew he was good at that. It's like he always just went to the crutch, which was running. And it's like he put it all together this year. And
They definitely were a fun team to watch this year.
Yeah, exactly. He's absolutely the real deal.
Think they'll transfer to Dallas? They'll move their team to Dallas?
I know. Yeah, speaking of L.A., which is where the Super Bowl is, and I guess the Rams are going back. Is that the deal?
Are the Chargers too, or just the Rams?
Well, I knew the Chargers were in the runs. They had about 3 or 4 teams that were looking at it, and I think the Rams were finally the ones that are heading that way, back to L.A. Rams again.
And I think San Diego got a pretty big incentive to stay in San Diego, and because they talked about sharing that stadium, but they basically gave an incentive to you stay here, capture that market. And
Okay.
It's really too bad though, because I mean St. Louis has a great fan base and they got a great stadium there. They really do. And of course, San Diego's got a great fan base as well. I think the only one that's fan base was semi in limbo and is kind of a cross between LA and Oakland is the Oakland Raiders. And of course, Oakland, I thought if there was going to be a team that should go down, it's, I mean, they've already done the switch back and forth anyway. Why not just keep it that one? Oakland and LA. But I think St. Louis, that's really a tough loss for that market.
Well, and the other thing is they're in a pretty tough division. I mean, if they were in the East, they probably would have won the East.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just, between San Francisco, I mean, they'll be back, and Seattle and Arizona. I mean, golly, that's tough.
It was. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
That's what's great about the NFL, because 5 to 6 to 10 years ago, that was one of the worst divisions. And then now, the past 4 or 5 years, they've been, if not in the championship, right there next to it.
Exactly. Well, just like our NFC East, which is, generally very strong, very good, Eagles, Skins, Giants, and us, but then pretty weak last couple of years. Division winners have been, 9-7 sometimes. Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's take a little break. Inside Real Estate Radio, we'll be back in a few.
The J.C. Harder Insurance Agency in Uptown Dallas has nearly unlimited resources when it comes to getting you the best insurance rates and policies for home, auto, and more. As part of the Goosehead Insurance brand, you, the consumer, have the power of choice through the J.C. Harder Insurance Agency Network. For a quote today on all your insurance needs, stop by J.C.'s office on McKinney Avenue in Uptown Dallas. Call 214-643-6108 or visit jcharderagency.com. That's 214-643-6108 or jcharderagency.com.
Sellers, how would you like your home sold guaranteed? Buyers, how would you like your bid guaranteed to win? Well, it's real simple. Call Mike Kruizinga with Chris Arnold Premier Realty and ask about their guarantee programs for both buyers and sellers. No one beats Mike's professional listing and marketing services for all price ranges, including luxuries and ranches. And few have the knowledge and patience to take first-time buyers from renting to home ownership in a tough market. Visit DFWMetroplexRealestate.com and mention you heard this on the radio. And listen to Mike Sundays, 8 a.m. on KLIF for Inside Real Estate.
Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
Hey, folks, we are back. It's InsideRealEstateRadio.com is the website. Mike Kruizinga here, your local host of the show and your local DFW area realtor. If you tuned in early and you didn't hear a lick of real estate, well, it's because we decided to throw that format out the door today because it's Super Bowl Sunday and we're going to just have fun and we're going to talk football because we all enjoy football. And you know what? It's the last day to talk about football until next season.
The draft in April.
Yes. And us Cowboy fans can really hope for something good to happen in the draft.
Quarterback.
Yeah. Yes, please. So that's what we're going to talk about. Website's InsideRealEstateRadio.com if you want to call in and talk to us about sports, the Super Bowl, real estate, whatever, 888-787-KLF. And so let's get into some stats here. We were talking about who we were wanting to win. Who are you rooting for anyway, JC?
Depends if we're talking about as a fan or as a gambler.
Let's go with fan.
Yes, let's go with fan.
Fan, like to see Peyton Manning get it, retire.
Yeah.
But as the stats or, the numbers, it looks like Carolina's a good choice.
Yeah, I agree. I think if we're picking, a team that's if we're looking at the numbers and everything, obviously Carolina should have them hands down. I think the only thing that's going to keep Denver in it is their defense. The story obviously sets up great for Peyton, which is kind of sucky for Cam because what a heck of a season Cam and the Panthers and Ron Rivera have had. I mean, this is an amazing season for them, and I feel like some of that thunder is stolen a little bit, because it is probably Peyton's last hurrah, but such is life.
But I don't think he's going to just hand it to him just because he, wants.
And I kind of have a feeling maybe he's just going to throttle them.
Right.
They're just going to get throttled like 55-7 or something.
Well, I think they're talking about, their Denver's, offense is really struggling. With Peyton being in the pocket, I mean, I think Carolina's just going to be blitzing and blitzing and blitzing.
Right.
And if he doesn't hit those quick, hot receivers,
yep.
I mean, I think they're going to be in trouble. And they're always talking about Denver's defense, but the other thing is Arizona had a great defense.
Right.
And Carolina just tore them to pieces.
Yeah, you're right. I was really surprised how that game went with Arizona. Carson Palmer was not his usual self, but I also blame some of the play calling in that game. Had they started calling some inside slants, quick slants to Fitzgerald, utilize what they could have, gotten down the field with, then I think it could have been a different story. And I think Denver needs to learn by that. They need to get the ball out quick, and they need to go inside slants, inside routes. They start trying to get the ball out to the corners. These are going to be pick sixes. Peyton he's not at top form. So they've got to cover him on that.
Well, and I think also I think they're going to be covering the receivers tight, and then they're going to be blitzing. So they're not going to have time to get down the field.
Exactly.
And they're going to be covering them real tight. So the slants and the hot routes are even going to be hard. So.
I think the Denver secondary maybe is a little bit better, than Arizona, but if they've got a shot, it's definitely going to be all on Denver defense. And I think if Wade Phillips calls a good game defensively and doesn't hang back, I think if they hang back, I think Cam's going to pick them apart. But I think if he blitzes hard and smart and from the outside and keeps Cam up the middle where the linebackers can come in and help, then I think maybe they can keep it to a low-scoring game and maybe steal it.
Well, I think also the difference is to me the big difference in the game is Cam is mobile and you got to always worry about him threat or running.
Right.
Where Peyton isn't. Peyton's either going to stay there, either going to get the pass or the sack. I mean, you don't have to worry about anything. So, I mean, to me, it would be extremely difficult to try and have a defense against Cam because of just the versatility there.
Yeah, his mobility is amazing. I think if they can force him to the middle, though, as long as they don't have just a wide open gap in the middle, if they're covering that, then they might be good. Who are you going for, Kevin?
Well, we talked during the break. I'm really divided because I'm not sure who I'm going to go for. I'd like to see Denver, at least Peyton, go out on top, but I want Denver to win because they're the better team.
Same here.
Not just because it's a fluke and Peyton goes out on top.
I know.
I usually root for who I feel is the best team because they deserve to win it.
Right.
And don't want them to, win it on a fluke.
I know. I agree.
I mean, it's just kind of going back to Seattle and Green Bay last year. I mean, Green Bay deserved to win that game. And Seattle came back and had a couple flukes and ended up winning it, So I wasn't for Seattle in the Super Bowl because I didn't think they deserved to be there.
Right. Terry, how about you? What?
Well, I'm going as the only female here on air today. I'm going to go with the emotional view of it, and I'm going to say that I want Peyton Manning to win. I think that with the whole setup on oldest quarterback in the game, and I like him.
Yeah,
I think he's a good player. I think that they're a good team, and I'd like to see Denver win.
Yeah, they're definitely a good team, but to me, one question is going to be is if Denver loses, then what's Peyton going to do?
I
still think he's got to retire. I just don't think he can take the beating anymore,
yeah.
Can he?
Yeah. Well, and even if he loses today's game, he still had a winning season. So I think he doesn't go out on the top, but he still did very well this year.
Right. Yeah. I mean he holds the majority of the records.
Right.
And he's had one heck of a career. So
hadn't he been there more than any other quarterback? Hadn't he been to the Super Bowl?
You know what? I have all the Super Bowl stats in my piles here.
I think I read that.
And let's come back
Preparing
with
for
that
today's
on
show.
on the next segment. We will talk about Super Bowl stats.
There you go.
Because guess what? We got the most teams in it. We got the most teams winning it. We got the most MVPs, quarterbacks, all that good stuff in the next segment here. But let's finish this one up. All right. Let's get a few stats in right here. Total first downs. Panthers 357. Broncos 314. Okay. Third down conversions 86 of 203. That's the Panthers. And 79 of 224 for the Broncos. Virtually every category I've gone through, basically the tail of the tape goes to the Panthers. Obviously rushing their way out in the head, and Cam has almost total yardage of what the two quarterbacks do on the Broncos. Sack-wise, though, is where actually the Broncos do have the edge. DeMarcus Ware has 7.5, Von Miller 11 sacks. Overall, they had about 10 or so more sacks. They had 52. Well, actually, it was closer than I thought. 52, and Carolina had 44 sacks for the year. So that was really the main edge that they had. Time of possession went to Carolina as well by about 3 minutes on average. So tail of the tape going to Carolina, no doubt.
Well, and you got also the one we haven't even talked about is Kuechly.
Yes.
I mean, he's a beast.
He is.
He's just a beast. And he seems to be everywhere all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So
One of the local sports radio guys called him Arshawn Lee without concussions. Like just all over the field,
Yeah.
leader, always making plays, good hands, many interceptions, and just a great linebacker.
Yeah, he leads 118, 76 solo, 42 assisted, and I didn't think this was Cam's go-to guy. I knew he was all over the field for Cam, and I knew he liked going to Cam because he's got sure hands. But he was actually their yards leader, Greg Olson, 1,104 yards this year, 77 receptions, and he's, by 400 yards, their top receiver. I didn't think he was going to be their number one. I mean, I knew he was a 1,000-yard receiver, but I thought for sure one of the main wideouts
One
was.
of my top fantasy players this year. Greg
Oh,
Olsen.
yeah, he's got to be
Always in the
everybody's.
end zone.
Yeah, absolutely.
well, I think one reason is they're just so balanced. I mean, between run and pass.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see Cam with 300-yard games. Rarely.
That utility back, in the league right now is a key back. You got Kelsey, you got him, Jason Witten. A lot of these utility backs are kind of that almost fullback, slot back, tight end. They really have created a niche for themselves in the league right now.
So who are you for?
Well, I think I'm like all you guys. I'm gonna go. I would really like to see Peyton go out on top, just because it's retirement time and he's had one heck of an amazing career. But at the same time, I hate it that Cam and Ron Rivera have had such an amazing season with the Panthers. I mean, what they've done, and although Jimmy Johnson said it earlier in the season, it's not like the schedule was super tough. I mean, I'm not saying they had a weak schedule, anything like that, but
Their division was down this year for
Right.
sure, with the Saints and the Falcons, and
yeah.
who's the other one? Anybody know?
Saints,
NFC
Falcons,
South,
Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay.
Was it
yeah.
TB?
Yeah.
Yeah, they
I think one thing about Cam is, Cam's, it'd be shocking if he wasn't back there again. Because he's so young, and where Peyton, this is his,
Right.
chances are it's his last time, and Cam's going to have, a lot of years ahead of him. And I think it's also kind of interesting because Rodney Harrison said one time during the season, he goes, "I'd rather be 18-1 and win the Super Bowl rather than being 18-1 and lose the Super Bowl."
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm torn as well. I mean, I want to see Cam and Ron and more so Ron Rivera win. And they've just done such an excellent job. And it's tough to get to the Super Bowl. He may never get back, even though he's young. We know what happens to running quarterbacks in the league.
Right.
Thank goodness Cam started to figure out he needs to stay in the pocket and get rid of the ball because he's a huge asset to the league for sure. But we know what happens to running quarterbacks.
Right, that's true. But I don't think Marino got back. I think he went his
He went rookie year, 84.
Right. But I don't think he ever got back.
Yeah.
Well, and we did just look up. This will be Peyton Manning's fourth trip to the Super Bowl.
Fourth trip.
Fourth trip, yep. So Tom Brady has been there more than anyone else.
How many for Tom?
5.
Yeah. Okay. All right, folks. Hey, guess what? We're talking Super Bowl Sunday here on Inside Real Estate, and we're going to take a short break, and we're going to be right back. With decades of experience, the Rocky Martin Supreme Lending Team will work to close your home loan in 30 days or less. With access to the most competitive interest rates, the most financing options, and the most access to down payment assistance programs, the Rocky Martin team won't be beating service to you for all your mortgage needs, including purchase and refinance. Trust RockyMartin.com and his team for their reliable and fast loan process. Go to RockyMartin.com or call 972-772-1866 today.
For housing lender, NMLS ID number 211731, 6730 Horizon Road, Suite B, Heath, Texas 75032.
Living in the DFW area, expansive clay soil and extreme weather conditions play havoc on homes' foundation. But thankfully, you can turn to Permapeer Foundation Repair of Texas, who has successfully repaired over 20,000 properties and counting in the DFW area. With the most trusted, tried and true foundation repair methods, trust the professional staff of Permapeer Foundation Repair to take care of your property, and most repairs are backed by a lifetime transferable warranty. Mention Inside Real Estate Radio when calling Permapeer at 214-637-1444 or when booking online at permapeer.com for your Inside Real Estate Radio discount.
The J.C. Harder Insurance Agency in Uptown Dallas has nearly unlimited resources when it comes to getting you the best insurance rates and policies for home, auto, and more. As part of the Goosehead Insurance brand, you, the consumer, have the power of choice through the J.C. Harder Insurance Agency Network. For a quote today on all your insurance needs, stop by J.C.'s office on McKinney Avenue in Uptown Dallas. Call 214-643-6108 or visit jcharderagency.com. That's 214-643-6108 or jcharderagency.com.
Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
Hey, folks, we're back. It's Inside Real Estate. Mike Kruizinga, your local host and local Dallas-Fort Worth area realtor. We're not talking too much real estate today because we decided we're going to talk Super Bowl Sunday. And but you know what? We do have a couple facts and figures about real estate that tie into the Super Bowl. And what are those, Terry?
Right, we didn't want to leave it completely out.
I know.
So we wanted to just kind of look at what is the median home price in Denver and in Charlotte, and I also even looked up in Santa Clara where the Super Bowl is being played. Yeah. So we'll start with Denver. The average Denver home sale in 2015 was $363,143, and that was up 12% year over year. Charlotte average list price was $300,509. Okay, but so let's
expected lower. Yep.
Let's travel over to Santa Clara, California. Any guesses?
I'm guessing it's going to be way lower, right?
No. No. Median home price in Santa Clara, $917,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Triple Denver.
Mm-hmm.
Triple Denver.
The average sales price for a home in December 2015 was $1.1 million. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy, isn't it?
Crazy.
You know, and
I can see why people are moving.
Yeah, they're all coming here.
Can you imagine what you can get in Dallas for $1 million?
Yes. And they're super surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, an awesome
absolutely.
home. Yeah.
Well, there you go. There's our small bit of real estate for this hour. Now back to football.
So back to football. Peyton Manning. Okay, Peyton Manning's home. He didn't buy a median average home in Denver. He has a $5 million mansion. Which, I guess could be expected.
Right. And that honestly,
Manning,
that's pretty reasonable
for
a professional superstar athlete, actually.
Right.
Pretty modest.
Right.
Right?
Yeah,
honestly.
So.
Okay.
Well, the other thing, since we need to talk about flooring also, thrown in there.
I bet Peyton Manning has some awesome
I bet
flooring.
he does, but,
right.
as you go, everybody has their Super Bowl parties, if you ruin your flooring.
True.
You need to give us a call.
That's right.
We'll take care of it.
And many people will ruin their flooring.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. So don't forget idealfloors.com. Absolutely.
And
JC,
if they need to refinance their home to afford
To afford, yes.
There you go. Call me.
To
There you
afford
go.
the rehab.
That's right. And JC can take care of the insurance claims after all the damage from the Super
That's
Bowl.
right.
You get a little liability waiver when your friends walk through the door.
Exactly, because they might trip and fall, and if they're not a good friend. Hey, you had a good insurance stat for the Super Bowl day.
Oh, yeah. It's one of the most common auto insurance accident claims on Super Bowl Sundays.
One of the biggest days, right?
Between people, going to and from parties, and they also mentioned a lot of it was pizza delivery.
Oh,
Just,
wow.
so many cars on the road.
Right, getting
So
out there. And by the way, in most counties here in the Metroplex, it's a no refusal weekend. So, we're all going to have fun. We're going to do our thing for Super Bowl Sunday, but it's a no refusal weekend, which means that, they're going to take your blood, you're going to get the breathalyzer. It's what it says, no refusal. So use the designated driver.
Uber.
Uber.
Back to Peyton Manning real quick on his home. I think, when he signed with Denver, he invested in or bought 21 Papa John's locations in Denver. So I think there's probably enough revenue stream right there for that mansion.
Probably
so.
Really?
Yeah.
He's doing all right.
That's probably why he's on Papa John commercials.
Exactly.
Wow,
That's
we just pulled up a picture of his home. It's a nice home.
And what's the deal with Joe Montana on the latest Papa John commercials? He's kind of like just there on the side, and he's kind of dressed really poorly.
Yeah, he kind of looks like
did
a
they just
street person.
grab him off the street? I mean, Joe Montana is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
I don't know. Maybe he's had concussion problems.
No, I refuse to talk about concussions.
Okay.
By the way, Joe Montana, 3-time Super Bowl MVP, which was the leader, tied with Brady, who had 3 as well. And by the way, correcting our Brady was 6.
6, yes.
6, not 5,
I didn't have my
as we
glasses
said
on.
earlier. But, Joe Montana, 3-time Super Bowl MVP, Brady 3-time, Terry Bradshaw 2-time, Eli Manning, and I really even struggled to even mention that, but he was a 2-time MVP. That just goes to show, I guess, nobody else.
Both against Tom Brady.
Who else could it go to?
Well, but what would you rather be, Peyton? Peyton Manning with 1 Super Bowl or Eli with 2 Super Bowls?
Peyton's got better commercials.
Yeah, really. There you go.
So I say Peyton. You got to give that to Peyton. He does have the best commercials, really. I mean, they're funny. He's just got comedic timing. He really does.
Right.
His Saturday Night Live skits are hilarious.
They are.
Like he's
honestly, if they took him and put him on and replaced any of the nighttime night show hosts, we might be going back to the ratings of, Leno and Carson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned. Hey, guess what? Hall of Fame 2016 inductees. I know my girl who's listening at home is going to love this one. Brett Favre is obviously the big name going in, class of 2016. Small class, though. Eddie DeBartolo Jr., of course, he was the owner of the Niners during their great runs there in San Fran. Tony Dungy, coach, of course. Kevin Green. And Marvin Harrison, Orlando Pace, Ken Stabler, Dick Stanfill, and one of these names reminds me of who was the first left-handed quarterback to win
Steve Young?
Stapler?
in the big game. Now, did I just mention Steve Young in the last 8 names, JC? Were you listening?
No, I was looking at my next topic.
But you know what? I agree. I would have thought Steve Young. Ding,
Well, I
ding,
said-
ding, ding. Kevin is correct. It was Ken Stabler,
Okay.
the first left-hander. Who would have thought that? I never would have thought that.
I did.
Well, yeah, you did. Good job. Good job. Folks, we got a few more minutes to talk some football. And then guess what? We're going to switch it all around and get geared up for no-nonsense politics for the local politics segment. But we got a couple more minutes. So, last thoughts, folks, on Super Bowl trivia, and all that good stuff?
I have a fun fact. Do y'all know that this is the first time that the NFL has broken tradition in advertising the Super Bowl by the way they're advertising it? Do you know what I mean? They're using 50 instead of Roman numerals.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
That's true.
That is a good point, and I didn't notice that.
Because it would have been an L. Now, how impactful would that have been just to see Super Bowl L?
But they did use XL and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
But you're aiming for the W.
True.
Right. So I thought that was kind of cool.
That is a good
because I
point.
hadn't noticed it until I, studied up for today.
Good job. You know what? I want to know why we have only gotten one Super Bowl. South Florida, like 10 or so times. New Orleans, 10 or so times. L.A. area, 7 or so times. Tampa, 4. San Diego, 3. Phoenix, 3. Even Houston's gotten 3. Dallas only 1.
Because we
Is it
have
because
an
of Jerry?
Storm. We have an ice storm when we have it here.
True, but that was 2011.
Well, and the stadium hasn't been around that long.
True.
So it never was at the old stadium?
No.
No.
And we've played in the most Super Bowls along with the Steelers. So
That is strange.
How are we getting absolutely
I think it's
royally?
Jerry.
You know what? Yes. Yeah, because Houston got 3, and of course, they have had larger seating capacity. The old Texas Stadium seating capacity was pretty solid, but it wasn't as big as the Astrodome.
No.
So, and I guess at the end of the day, that's what it was about. And of course, in 2011, we had the ice storm, and we had the seating issue too.
Exactly. Is that lawsuit still going on, or has that been settled? Or?
I would hope it's been settled by now.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything else about it.
That they may still be doing the blame circle.
Right.
Their fault. Their fault. Their
Yeah,
fault. Their fault.
Exactly.
Well, I think it's either going to be a very, very close game or Carolina blowout.
I hope it's a close game. I don't like watching Super Bowls that are.
I'm hoping for a
blowouts.
close one.
Yeah.
The Seattle Denver a couple years ago, that was supposed. I just looked at the line; it was 2.5 when it came out, and they lost 40 something to 8. Was hard. That was a hard one to watch.
Well, especially when the first play was over Peyton's head. Snap was over his head.
I know. I remember that, and I knew right then. This is not going to be good.
What about a move to make the Monday after the Super Bowl a
national
US holiday?
I love it. I love it. It should be.
I think that's the day where most people call in sick.
I
believe so.
That's probably a stat.
Well, with a late start, and the commercials are drawn out, the halftime show's drawn out. It is a time commitment.
I agree.
I have to admit, that's actually the one thing I'm excited about is the commercials. To me, I watched the Super Bowl for the game, but I watched just as much for the
love the commercials.
Right.
All right, that's the last piece of this thing. Everybody favorite commercial.
Well, my preview so far from the ones I've seen is the Pantene, where it's the dads do their little girls' hair. The one with Jason Witten, love it. But I'm a big Jason Witten fan.
Same here.
So I think it's just as cute as it can be.
And he's got the Albertsons commercial. We get our 10% discount at Albertsons.
Right.
and I get it every time.
That's right.
Really,
Kevin, who you got? What's your favorite commercial?
I don't know. The one that always keeps popping in my mind is either remember when the frogs in the Super Bowl commercials a number of time ago. I haven't seen any of the new ones.
The Budweiser.
Bud.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Bud.
The Clydesdales are always nice.
Yeah, I love the Clydesdales. My favorite, is one of the Clydesdales ones. It's I always look for those. It's the one where it was the goat, the shaved goat was the streaker. That was my favorite one, I think, for as of right now, probably my favorite all time. JC?
I'm going to go with an anticipated favorite of this year is I saw some highlights of the Drake Hotline Bling commercial, and it's like a T-Mobile commercial. And if you don't know Drake, he really makes fun of himself, and he's really funny with it. And so that one's going to be a good one.
All right. Well, folks, we've been having a little fun. Thanks for indulging us here this morning. We decided we were going to talk a little football for Super Bowl Sunday. We'll be back to our regular scheduled format of all kinds of real estate, insurance, mortgage, flooring, home improvement talk next week. We've had J.C. Harder from the J.C. Harder Goosehead Agency website, jcharderagency.com, 214-643-6108. Kevin Hamus, owner of Ideal Floors. IdealFloors.com is the website, 214-789-0422 for all your flooring, home improvement needs. And, of course, Terry Wagner, RockyMartin.com, team Rocky with an IE, phone number 866-607-5667. Terry Wagner, our Supreme Lending Rockwall expert. Folks, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back and have our local politics segment. We've got a political candidate who's going to be running for Congress. He's going up against Pete Sessions, who's the incumbent. We got Paul Brown on the line. He's calling in, and we're going to be talking with him shortly. We're going to go to break and come right back.
I just took Balance of Nature for the first time You guys are awesome. God bless you.
I have CIDP. It's helped me with my balance. It's helped clear up my skin condition.
I honestly did notice a difference. That's why I reordered it.
I feel good. I really just feel good. Everything has changed. I just feel so much better.
There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that this product works. It's helped me as far as my overall health. I even recommended it to my mother, and she's been taking it, and she's 89 years old.
Get started early on your New Year's resolution with our best price of the year. Call now to find out how to get your free month's supply of Balance of Nature. Call 800-2468-751. That's 800-2468-751. Or go online to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code DALLAS.
Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
Hey folks, Mike Kruizinga here. We're back. Inside Real Estate Radio, website InsideRealEstateRadio.com. Crazy show for you today. We've been talking Super Bowl Sunday instead of our usual format of real estate and home improvement. But we're switching gears, flipping the switch, going serious on you. It's a political year, election year, so we've in a rolling series of political segments we're doing. It's time to head into that. On the line here, we've got Paul Brown, who is the Republican candidate running in District 32. He's running against the incumbent Pete Sessions. And Pete Sessions has been in since about 96, by the way. And as far as I'm concerned, you know, term limits, and we talk about it all the time. We need to make that happen. And, you know, if you're in there for 10 or so years, I'm saying it's time for you to get out, because how effective can you be by that point? Paul Brown, are you on the line with us?
Yes, sir. I'm right here. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good morning. How we doing on a Super Bowl Sunday?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm taking a little day off. I've been walking door to door pretty much nonstop for a while now, so I've personally visited about 9,200 houses in the district, and it's nice to have a day off every once in a while.
Yeah, I believe it. Well, you're out there hitting the pavement, aren't you?
That's right. That's right.
Those incumbents don't do that anymore, do they?
Yeah, you rarely get to see your own representative. That's true across the country. It's certainly true here in District 32.
Yeah, they start to hide out for a while once they're in, because, you know, I think it's a thing about, for the voters, you know, name recognition just starts to become part of it. And once you kind of recognize that name, you're like, oh, yeah, well, I didn't hear a scandal about them this last go-around. We'll just vote for them again. I mean, isn't that kind of true?
Yeah, you do see that a lot. And to be honest, one of the challenges we knew coming into this race is going to be going against someone with so much name recognition. But I was pleasantly surprised to find that I think this is the election cycle where people in the district have decided, you know what, 20 years is too long. It's time for somebody new. And that's the kind of feedback I've been getting throughout the campaign.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think everybody kind of feels that way. Is everybody's kind of fed up with everybody, and if you've been in there that long, unless you've really accomplished some things, and don't get me wrong, a lot of these incumbents have certainly accomplished things, but you know, we're talking about real life-changing impacts on the ground for people,
right?
And by and large, that stuff doesn't happen.
No, you're right, and I mean, we do get impacts, but they're largely negative. One of the things I talk about a lot is the national debt. It's creeping up on $20 trillion, and it's, you know, our Congress is responsible for that. People like to point fingers across the aisle, but it's Republicans and Democrats. And my position is we need new people in the Republican Party who are very serious about fiscal responsibility, who can really work on this issue.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, anybody who knows anything is it's, you know, he who is in a position of debt is in a position of weakness, and you know, militarily speaking, you know, we're the big kid on the block, but financially speaking, yeah, not so much, and that impacts that.
You're absolutely right. You know, I'd like to talk to you all a little bit about my background, where I'm coming from, and everything. I'm sure some of the people listening to this know this already, but I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I worked in intelligence, went to Iraq. You know, I've started a couple small businesses. I've never run for office before, but I'm running now because, as we've been discussing, it's very clear that we need to make some big changes in Washington. So I'm definitely aiming to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We need to hear about your background. And I was extremely interested to hear about your intelligence background, and if you can maybe elaborate a little bit more on that, on where you can, and
Sure.
then and how it relates to this topic in the world where we're heavily relying on electronic surveillance, which obviously is great. We need it, but at the same time, we're losing human intelligence and losing sort of the game on the ground to a degree where we need that human intelligence, and it's tough to replace that solid human intelligence on the ground.
You're absolutely right. So a little more on my background. I joined the Marine Corps in 2005. I was honorably discharged in 2010 as a sergeant. In that time, I was working in intelligence and what's known as signals intelligence as a cryptological Spanish linguist.
Okay.
When I deployed to Iraq, I was working in a capacity as a geospatial intelligence analyst. And, my major function during this time was writing reports, the various kinds of reports that are used for targeting insurgents and insurgent cells. So that was definitely very interesting work. It was very rewarding work. When I got out of the Marine Corps in 2010, I got married. That was, kind of one of my thought processes on getting out. I wanted to sort of start a family and kind of move on from that. But I ended up going to work at the Defense Intelligence Agency for close to 4 more years and continued report writing and everything. And, in the nearly 10 years I spent in the intelligence community, I learned a lot about our capabilities, about the way our intelligence system works, about our shortfalls. And you're absolutely right. We do have a big gap in human intelligence. And the electronic surveillance you're talking about is an extremely powerful and useful tool. However, it does have its limits, and it does have, another total different set of issues that we see a lot on the news, which is the issue of, the Fourth Amendment privacy rights for U.S. citizens. I was on another show the other day, and I was being asked about, don't we need to have the tools we need to catch terrorists? And the answer is yes, with the exception of when we are illegally violating the rights of U.S. citizens. As someone who has worked in that community, I know that we don't need to be able to illegally violate the privacy of U.S. citizens. We can get warrants when we do suspect a U.S. citizen of that kind of activity. If we need to take a closer look, we can get a warrant.
Right.
And this is something that people don't talk about too much when they're trying to push the position of we need more security. But I like to remind people of what Benjamin Franklin said. Those who would trade essential liberty for a little temporary safety deserve neither. And I'll ad lib here onto that and say they'll get neither, because unfortunately the more liberty you give up, the less your security actually exists, because you're handing over your liberty to a tyrannical state.
Exactly, and I agree wholeheartedly, 100%, because it's usually just a matter of time before that happens. Once you give up for the sake of security, give up your liberties.
That's right.
It's hard to get them back, number one, and number two, you're not far off from going very, very south.
Yep, that's absolutely right.
Yeah, and I think, you raise a great point. Obviously, we're extremely concerned about the electronic surveillance as it relates to us domestically. But on the flip side of that, abroad, it has scored us some huge wins. But many times it needs to be verified on the ground, either through our own intelligence assets or our military assets. And so that's where we need to not forget about continuing to develop on the ground as well.
Right. You just can't always rely on technology. Technology is fantastic. It's a force multiplier. It's, the better technology we have, the better job we can do. But it's never a replacement for things like human intelligence. Better technology is never a replacement for having the right people in your infantry and in your special operations. Any company knows that you can have the best software, the best tools available in your market, but if you don't have the right people working them, it doesn't matter. And human intelligence is something that atrophied significantly throughout the 1990s.
Right.
In many ways, we've worked since then to build it back up. But frankly, our intelligence services are working on a pretty limited budget for the task at hand. And one of the things you'll hear me talk about is cutting spending. We've got to cut spending federally, but one of the areas that you get the biggest positive returns for your money, at least in the area of national security or national defense, is intelligence, because it is a force multiplier. The better intelligence you have, the less you're going to have to spend elsewhere later down the line on hopefully on wars, on conflicts, on racing with the enemy, because you know where the enemy's at. You can pinpoint the best tools and strategies you need to counter them.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I think that's one of the reasons why, to me, you're such a interesting candidate in this race, and how you're kind of uniquely qualified in this particular era. You've got the skill sets that honestly we really need in someone who is willing to actually go to Congress, and some people are like, go to Congress, you're just going to bat your head against the wall, but it takes a particular type of person to say, hey, I'm willing to do that. And then for that same person to have the same kind of skill sets that you do and knowledge that you do, particularly in an extremely important area, intelligence, that kind of excites me about your candidacy.
Certainly, I definitely appreciate that observation. And I'll say one thing from my perspective. One of the things I bring to the table is experience on the ground in this most recent major conflict in the global war on terror. Not only did I deploy to Iraq, my brother was also in the Marine Corps. He went to Iraq and Afghanistan. I have cousins in the Army and Navy that went to Afghanistan. And, I've got tons of other friends and family that have served, and many of which who have deployed. And we've all I've consistently run into the same perspective amongst other servicemen and women and other veterans. I'm not saying I speak for everyone here, but a very large portion of us are frustrated by the fact that we get sent to these conflicts, but our elected officials do not commit to winning. And this is not a new problem. This has been a problem for 70 years.
Right.
Our servicemen in Korea saw it. We saw it in Vietnam. We saw it in Iraq and Afghanistan. And it's come to the point where we have repeated ourselves so much and under such major circumstances that I have no reason to believe that in the near future we're going to do anything differently. And so as we draw closer to the problem of Syria, it's very clear that there's a possibility that we're going to ramp up into that conflict as well. My position has become that, look, unless we're willing to do literally whatever it would take to win in this situation, as i.e. commit to winning, which would essentially be total war, then I know we're not going to. And as such, I can't support any plus-up of troops in Syria. And furthermore, right now my position is that we need to cast a vote for the troops that are in Iraq and Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, Yemen now, because the last authorization for use of military force was passed in 2003. And at this point, they're all there operating solely at the whim of the president without any acknowledgement or responsibility from Congress. I would vote to bring them home, but one way or the other, whether they're there or they're at home, it needs to be Congress that decides it, because frankly, the way we're operating now is completely unconstitutional.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I think your frustration as someone who has served is, mirrors the frustration of the average, American all across the country who is tired of seeing our country commit to operations overseas, but not commit to taking care of them in the right way, providing the necessary assets, necessary funding, all the capabilities that we need to get the job done and then get it over with. They kind of just do sort of a halfway job. And, your frustration, our frustration, it's all the same. And I think everybody's kind of tired of it.
You're absolutely right. People are tired of it. People are waking up to the fact that we need to do something different, and I'm definitely in the market for doing something different as well. That's why I'm running.
Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, look, geopolitics in the Mideast is super complicated. A few decades ago we backed somebody. Another decade, goes by, we may not back them at that time. It's very complicated as far as what we do geopolitically in the Middle East. And most people don't understand it. And then getting into the conflicts constantly, Syria gets very scary. We need someone who understands what's going on and who has been over there. And that's why I really like what your candidacy is about. And by the way, if people want to get more information about you, you've done a number of radio interviews. I think you were on K-Sky, 660 AM, our competitor as well with Mark Davis, right?
That's right. Yeah, there's a bunch of ways people can find out more. The biggest thing is the website, paulbrowntx.com. On that website, you'll find several of the interviews I've done, as well as plenty of other information on me. I intend to put this one up there as well if I get an audio file for that.
Yes, we'll get it to you.
The Facebook page is, it's facebook.com/PaulBrownTX. But I definitely encourage people to look at these. They've got especially the website, it's got my issues. It's got more of my bio. There's a contact form on there where people can reach out to me, and I personally check those, and I'm very happy to really discuss anything with people. But this is a very important race, and I think one of our biggest.
And we're running about really short. I'm sorry, I got to cut you off, Paul. Sure. This has been a good conversation. We need more time. I'm absolutely game for having another conversation on another week because I think we got way more to talk about. Hey, we've been talking to Paul Brown, candidate in District 32. Folks, check the website if you didn't get all of it